All right, bruvs, good morning. Hello. Happy Tuesday. That was horrible. But it's Tuesday, bruvs. Hope you guys are doing good. Happy Tuesday. It's your boy, Mr. Chavez. Welcome back to my channel, I guess. Here we are. We're doing it. We're making it happen. All right. Day 2. We got this. We are out here. All right. So thanks for tuning in. All right. I'm going to walk you through some stuff, talk a little bit about this lesson, and then you'll be on your way. All right. Bada bing, bada boom, and a story. Okay. So, yeah, welcome to Tuesday, you guys. Hope you guys are doing good. We got some good stuff planned for this lesson today. We are going to, well, let me first go ahead and break down, where we've been, where we're at, where we're headed, to give us some clarity on exactly what we're doing. Okay, so far, so this is what is this, week 3? Week 3 in class. Okay, like 3 and 2 2 and 2 days, something like that. All right, we've been here for a few weeks, so we're kind of familiar. Right, so here's where we've been. All right, so in the beginning of class, we spent a lot of time talking about arguments, why they're important to know how to do, what makes a good argument, etc. All right, so that took a lot of time in the very beginning. Okay, we also talked about a few other history skills. Namely, we talked about sourcing. All right, so primary, secondary, tertiary sources. And we also looked at source analysis. Okay, we learned how to analyze a source to fully understand it. All right. Yesterday we looked at claim building. Okay, how to create a good claim. Right, so that was another skill. Right. And then as far as content, right, we have learned. Last week we learned about Native American history in the United States. We learned a little bit about that. Okay, so that's been our content so far. All right. So that's where we've been, right? Where we're at right now, okay? We are going to take everything that we've learned so far in these past 2.5 weeks, all right, and we're going to put that together. We're going to practice it, and we're going to solidify it, okay? So we're going to take the skills that we've learned, all right? Claim building, sourcing, analysis, right? And we're going to apply that to some Native American history that we're going to talk about, okay? That's been our content. All right, so that's what we're doing today. We're going to practice those skills. Now, let's talk a little bit about where we're headed, right? Because that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing today, right? So where we're headed is writing our essays, okay? So I haven't talked a lot about essay writing in this class, right? Because we've been taking our time getting through these important skills and content, which is totally okay. All right, so we're off to a slow start, but that's fine. Right, we're taking our time, okay? But shortly we will be writing our essays. Now, if you remember from the first day of class, right, and if you don't remember, this is a refresher, okay? We do not have multiple choice tests in this class anymore, okay? Instead, we are having just our essays being counted as our tests, okay? So what does that mean? What does that mean for us? All right, that means that we are going to be focusing on writing 2 different essays. These are argumentative essays, right? We know we're talking about arguments, okay? And our goal for this semester is to try to get through 2 of them. Okay, we're going to try to get through 2 of them, and that is going to count as our test grade. So if we write 2 of them, that means that they are going to be worth about 50% of our grade. So a quarter each. That's a lot. Don't be afraid though. It's going to be fine. We're going to have revision. I'm going to help you guys through. It's going to be cool. Okay. But shortly we're going to start getting into more of actually writing some essays. So what I'd like us to do is to look at the rubric, okay? Because the rubric is exactly how I'm going to be grading you guys when it comes for you to write your essays, okay? So this is for you here. And when I get back, I'm going to print out copies and give each of you a copy, okay? The reason we're doing this is so that you know exactly what it is that I'm looking for in your essays, in your arguments, and so you know exactly what to do when it comes to that, all right? No mystery, no secret. I'm not trying to scam you guys. I'm not trying to trick you guys, right? Exactly what it is that I'm looking for. I'm going to have this rubric, I'm going to print out your essay. I'm going to have this rubric next to it. I'm going to grade it side by side, okay, and hand it back to you, all right? So you have this. So as you're writing this, your essays, right, you can have this next to you and you can check and see exactly what I'm looking for, all right? This is for you, okay? So I'm going to just very briefly walk us through these different parts of the rubric, okay? Um, Obviously, when we go to write our essays, we're going to get a little more in depth. But the reason we're doing this right now is because the essay for today, I'm going to use a few of the rubric categories to grade you with. Okay, so here we go. All right, so these are the categories that you are going to be graded on. All right, they equal 100, so each essay is worth 100 points. Okay, and the categories are as follows. You have your introduction, which we're going to talk about today. Your claim, evidence number 1, evidence number 2, reasoning, which we haven't talked about, and conclusion, which we also have not yet talked about. Okay? So these are going to be the different things. And notice how for each of them, there's different point values, right? So your introduction is worth 15 points. Your claim itself, that one sentence, it's worth 20 points. 10 points for each piece of evidence. You're expected to use at least 2. Your reasoning is worth 30 points, so that's the biggest part of your grade. We'll talk more about that later. And then your conclusion is worth 15 points, okay? So this is exactly how you're going to be graded, all right? I'm just going to go through very quickly and read each of the excellent categories, okay? So for your introduction, in order to get full points, your introduction needs to offer an appropriate amount of historical background and context to introduce the subject and identify a counterclaim. We'll talk more about what a counterclaim is later as well. Okay, so your claim, should be one sentence, introduces a claim that is clearly arguable, that provides a specific reason for the position. There is, because we talked about that yesterday. All right, your evidence, okay, evidence should support the claim, should be fully introduced, right? So you should talk about the sourcing as well too, primary, secondary, what kind of source it is, etc. Right? This should be summarized in your own words, and you should give some context about where this source that you're using comes from. That all comes from analysis and sourcing. That's where that skill comes in. And you're going to repeat that for your second piece of evidence. Okay? So these are the ones that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to actually hold off on talking about reasoning and conclusion because we haven't yet talked about that yet. So I don't want to throw too much at you guys at one time. Okay? But for today's assignment, you're going to be graded on introduction, claim, and evidence. All right? So we haven't talked about one of these, which is introduction. All right, and I'm gonna do that right now. So pay close attention. If you want to jot down some notes, that's fine. I highly recommend that you do so. But this is a YouTube video, so you can come back and watch it. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about an introduction because we're gonna do that today for our assignment. Okay, so every essay needs an intro paragraph. Okay, you gotta tell the reader what it is that you're getting. You gotta give the background information so that your reader doesn't just jump into your argument, whatever you're trying to argue, cold, right? You got to ease your reader into your argument, ease your reader into your essay, give them some context, give them some background information, right? So that they know kind of where you're headed, okay? So for example, right, if you guys remember when we dealt with my poor cousin Augie, he's still pressed, by the way. I just talked to him like 2 days ago and he is not doing good. And it's been like, I don't know, a month. Like, my guy gotta let it go. Anyway, before I introduced, right, the actual argument for that situation, I gave you guys some background information, right? I talked about how it was my cousin and his girlfriend, and they've been together for a few years, and they broke up, and this and that, right? So that's all background information that you need in order to understand the argument, okay? You're going to do the same thing with your actual arguments, with your essays, okay? So your introduction paragraph. What makes a good intro paragraph? 3 things, 3 to 4 things, right? But 3 main things, right? Number 1, you got to have appropriate background information. that word appropriate comes right from the rubric. What does that mean? Appropriate background information. You got to have enough information there in order for the reader to have a good understanding of the argument that you're trying to create, okay? So if you're trying to create an argument, right, for example, back to my cousin, all right, and you're trying to say that Augie was right for, or whatever it was, who was right or wrong? That's what I asked you guys, okay? And you're going to say that Augie was right, okay? Before you get into it and explain why he was right, you're going to give some background information. You're going to talk about how long they were dating. You're going to talk about, other things. Where did they meet, etc. What is their like relationship like? Those things you need beforehand so that the reader can have a good understanding of your argument. All right? So in your intro paragraph, you're going to give that background information. You're going to introduce your argument, okay? So you're going to talk about the argument you have, right? If there's a question, if there's a prompt question, right? You want to add a little bit about that in there, okay? Because you don't want your reader just going from background information to, oh, by the way, here's my claim, right? You want to put something in there that says, like, here's some controversy, right? And then here's my claim about that controversy, okay? And then that brings you to your claim, right? For your claim, you want to just give that sentence that you wrote for your claim. What do you believe about it? Okay? So this is what it should look like, you guys, right? You should give some background information about the situation, give some context, right? Then you're going to introduce what the argument is. Like, what is the controversy? What is the yes or no? And then you're going to give your claim. What do you think about that? All right? So I just talked about this, but this is it in a little bit more detail, right? So appropriate background information, some rules. You want to include enough information to give the reader context. Assume the reader knows nothing. This is actually really important. Assume the reader knows nothing about your topic, right? Don't, just because I'm the one reading it doesn't mean that you should write it for me. Assume that whoever's reading this knows nothing. So you got to give them good information. And you got to explain it in detail. Do not be vague, all right? Introduce your argument again, right? So this is after giving your background information, you want to introduce the argument you're planning on arguing. Okay, I know that's repetitive, right? But you could restate the prompt. That might be helpful, right? Just to give the reader an idea of what it is, what the controversy is that you're going to be talking about, right? And then finally, you're going to state your claim, right? So this is, you're going to actually take the claim that you create, you're going to stick it right into your intro towards the end of the paragraph, okay? It could be the last sentence if you like. We haven't talked about counterclaims yet. We're going to be talking about them in about a week or two, right? But when we do end up using counterclaims, it should also go in your introduction paragraph, okay? All right, and here is an example, all right? So if the prompt question is what are the best kinds of chips and why, here is an example of a really good intro paragraph, okay? So take a look. I know it's a lot. I'm not going to read it all, right? But essentially, I have in green here is background information about whatever the topic is, right? Then I introduce the argument, right? Where it says here, there's heavy debate over which chip is the best, with each person having their own opinion, right? So the reader kind of gets an idea of what the argument's going to be about. Then I actually go in and give my claim, which is down here. You should pause this so you could take a look at it as well. But this is an example of a good intro paragraph. It has these three different parts. And obviously, of course, if I was using a counterclaim, it would also go after the actual claim. Okay? And that's it. That's how you write an intro paragraph, and that's also a little bit about the rubric.